The anime starts with a big white dragon who finds himself trapped in bondage as the hero of the world strikes with his final load. Puzzled, the dragon reflects that, to his knowledge, he has never done anything to warrant a human attack. In fact, he has even allied with them on several occasions. Breaking free from the chains, the legendary creature gazes at the moon and acknowledges that he's lived a long life. He thought that this is an unfitting end for a divine dragon who has existed since the age of gods. However, he accepts the hero's shots and begins to crumble away. As he faces the end, the dragon looks forward to his eternal rest. But the anime gods have other plans. He is reincarnated as a human, born to a family who names him Dolan. Years pass, and Dolan grows into a young man living in the small village of Varen, on the northern border of the continental kingdom of Arrest. The village thrives on agriculture, and Dolan works hard in the fields to earn his daily bread. At 16, he's already considered an adult, having left his family home the previous year to live on his own as is customary in the village. One day, Dolan goes fishing with his older brother, who asks about his upcoming journey to investigate the swamp. Your family who once lived there vanished about a month ago, and the village needs to figure out why, as they relied on them for trade. His brother notes that this task should fall to the garrison, not Dolan, but the former dragon explains that Captain Balon and the others are too busy defending the village. His brother offers to accompany him, but Dolan reassures him that he'll be fine. While talking, Dolan catches a massive fish after a brief struggle. On his way back to the village, he runs into Marita and Albert, who comment on his impressive catch. Dolan thanks Marita for convincing the village chief to allow him to go on the mission. She humbly says it's the least she can do since he helps with the training sessions for the children. Albert advises Dolan to focus on preparing for the journey as there are dangerous monsters and bandits near the village. With limited soldiers, the outskirts can enjoy the same level of protection as the cities, so the villagers must defend themselves. Back home, Dolan preserves the fish so it won't spoil. Just as he finishes, Aries stops by to remind him of their magic practice. She secretly has a crush on Dolan but hides it, claiming she just happened to be in the area. During practice, Dolan demonstrates his impressive offensive magic, perfectly hitting the target with an energy bolt. His master is impressed but reminds him they also need to work on magical healing, which was Dolan's weakest subject. After the lesson, the village chief introduces Dolan to Christina, a noble woman who will be staying in the village for a while. The chief warns Dolan to be respectful due to her status. Soon after, Dolan and Christina exchange greetings and briefly share a moment as they look into each other's eyes. The chief then continues to show Christina around the village, and Dolan notes her poise and grace. Later, Dolan visits his family to deliver food. He reflects on the harsh weather of the village, where winters are freezing and summers blistering. He's surprised by how humans manage to survive in such extreme conditions. His parents and younger brother warmly greet him, and his mother prepares a delicious meal. During dinner, his father teases him, suggesting that living alone must get lonely and that he should find a wife, as his older brother did. But Dolan insists he's okay with being single for now. The conversation then shifts to his upcoming journey, and his mother expresses concern about the dangers of the road. However, Dolan reassures her that he won't take any unnecessary risks and that the trip is purely investigative. Hearing this, his father trusts his son's judgment, believing he can make his own decisions. But the only thing he asks is that Dolan returns home safely to spare his mother any worry. He then promises to come back with a great story to tell. On the morning of his departure, Captain Balon expresses again that the mission should be handled by soldiers, but Marita reminds him that with a high risk of monster attacks, they can't afford to leave the village undefended. Letitia, the village nun, gives Dolan a simple blessing from their goddess, and his master tells him that her fortune-telling hints at a faint sense of danger, urging him to stay cautious. Airy, blushing, hands Dolan a packed lunch she made for him. With everything in place, Dolan sets off for the swamp. He arrives without incident and surveys the scene. Taking a deep breath, Dolan removes his gloves and touches the swamp's water to sense what's wrong. He soon realizes why the lizard people fled. The earth elemental's power has surged, while the water elemental's has weakened. His master's fortune-telling had been right again. But soon, Dolan's attention is drawn to some rustling in the bushes. He draws his sword, knowing that only powerful monsters can survive in the swamp in its current state. However, he is surprised when a baddie named Selena emerges. Selena calls Dolan foolish for coming alone, but he brushes off her remark, noting that it's strange to see demi-humans like her in this area. Despite the danger, he can't help but notice that she is as beautiful as the rumors suggest. Selena seems relieved when Dolan confirms he's alone and tries to charm him with a dance passed down by her mother. However, she can't remember the steps and ends up looking more silly than alluring. Exhausted, she admits that she didn't come to fight, but before they can discuss further, your mom suddenly appears. The creature lashes out at Selena, but Dolan cuts off its hand before it can harm her. As the monster begins to regenerate, Dolan grabs Selena, pulling her into hiding. He He explains that the creature is a mad elemental, likely the reason the lizard people fled. He suspects that a recent earthquake disturbed the elemental, driving it mad. Unfortunately, there's no way to calm it down, so they have no choice but to destroy it. The two quickly introduce themselves, and Dahlin asks if she can use magic. Selena, being an earth-type monster herself, doubts her magic will be effective against the elemental. However, she believes her unique racial spell might work. They soon devise a plan. Dahlin will confront the creature directly while Selena supports him from a distance. She starts reciting her spell with a tone that sounds almost like wedding vows, causing her to blush in embarrassment when Dahlin points it out. Selena summons a giant snake that constricts the elemental, buying Dahlin enough time to launch his attack. Selena cheers as they defeat the monster, but she gets splattered with mud in the process. Dahlin quickly checks to ensure she isn't hurt and thanks her for her help. He then collects the gems dropped by the defeated creature. After cleaning up, Selena sits beside Dahlin as he prepares a pot of soup. She's surprised that he's not afraid of her, unlike most humans. Dahlin remarks that she's different from the other Lamias he's met, who are typically more wary and aggressive towards humans. Curious, he asks why she's in the area, as there aren't any Lamia villages nearby. Selena reveals that when Lamias turns 17, they must leave their village to search for a husband, and she is now on that journey herself. Selena explains further, providing some background on her race. Lamias are an all-female species, and it's rare for them to give birth to male offspring. When they do, the child is always of the father's race. The Lamias originated when a cursed human woman passed her affliction to her female descendants. Due to their partially snake nature, their body fluids contain venom, meaning they must choose husbands with strong, venom-resistant bodies. Dahlin sympathizes with her, acknowledging that it must be harder for Lamias to find partners than it is for other races. Selena shares that her mother also met her father on a journey. He was a human like Dahlin, and she's touched by how well her parents got along. She feels Dahlin is treating her like a child with his kind responses, but he reassures her that's not the case. In fact, he finds her cute, which makes her blush. He serves her a bowl of soup, admitting it's not as good as his mother's cooking, but it's still tasty. Selena takes a bite and is overwhelmed by the meal, praising its rich flavor and aroma. Realizing she's getting overly excited, she stops herself and apologizes. Dahlin smiles, telling her that his mother taught him how to cook. He's glad she likes it, recalling how his family would gather around the pot on cold nights. Selena, noticing the warmth in his voice, comments that it's clear how much he loves his family. Dahlin agrees, reflecting to himself that the lonely dragon he once was is no more. The two spend the night bonding over stories of their families. As dawn breaks, they prepare to part ways. Dahlin shakes Selena's hand and wishes her luck in finding a great husband. He mentions that Lamias are fond of life energy, so he gives her a small amount of his own, only to accidentally overwhelm her with the strength of his draconic energy, causing her to fall. He quickly apologizes, realizing that a dragon's life energy might be too potent for her. Before leaving, Dahlin tells her he's returning to his village, but hopes that one day she'll visit with her future husband. They bid each other farewell and head off to their respective destinations. This then marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers. A few days later, a guard and a villager from the village noticed a woman crossing the bridge towards Varen. The villager remarked how dangerous it was for a young woman to travel alone, but she confidently reassured them that there was no need to worry. She believed that she was stronger than she looked. After all, she was just a simple Lamia. Once they realized she was a snake woman, they both panicked and ran off without looking back, much to Selena's frustration. Meanwhile, back at Dahlin's house, Maguru was teaching Dahlin and Eri the basics of magical medicine. Unlike regular medicine, magical potions were made from ingredients imbued with magic and required extreme care and preparation. Even the smallest mistake could be dangerous or fatal. As she finished explaining this, Dahlin made his first mistake. Maguru chuckled, teasing him about not being very good with delicate tasks. Eri then encouraged Dahlin not to get discouraged, pointing out that he had a sharp eye for medicinal herbs and was wonderful with children. Blushing slightly, she added that he was also quite handsome. Dahlin thanked her for the kind words, but admitted that he struggled with following complex recipes, acknowledging he had a lot to learn. Maguru, finding no issue with Eri's mixture, sent her off to play outside. Eri, however, preferred to stay and help her mother, so she excused herself. During this, Dahlin reflected on his past life as a dragon, where he never needed medicine, which might explain why he wasn't good at handling delicate things. Despite Dahlin's frustration, Maguru reassured him that his offensive magic was exceptional, though magical medicine was still a challenge for him. She reminded him that there were no shortcuts in life and that the obstacles he faced were just steps on his journey to improving. Later that day, Dahlin went to Eri's house for lunch after being invited. Aries' father offered a prayer to Miral, the goddess of nature, thanking her for her blessings. During this, Dahlin reflected that it had been a long time since he last saw Miral. After lunch, he realized he had stayed too long and hurried off. On his way, he was stopped by a cowed demi-human woman who asked if today wasn't his training day. Dahlin confirmed he was late for that reason, but the woman offered him fresh milk that came straight from her, which she regularly shared with the villagers, and despite being in a hurry, Dahlin drank it enthusiastically. Eventually, Dahlin reached the training grounds where 3 young boys were practicing the spears under Albert's supervision. He apologized for being late, but Albert smiled and called for a break. The kids excitedly gathered around Dahlin to show off their skills, but Albert told them to come back after the break, disappointing them. Suddenly, Dahlin sensed the presence of a monster nearby. Albert quickly noticed Dahlin's unusual behavior and asked what was wrong, but Dahlin tried to brush it off. Later that night, Dahlin returned to the forest, following the sensation he had earlier. He was convinced it was a monster, perhaps one he had encountered before. As he ventured deeper into the woods, he came across Selena bathing. Startled, she almost fell, but Dahlin caught her in time. Once she composed herself, Dahlin asked what she was doing there. Embarrassed, Selena asked him to close his eyes. Confused, Dahlin wondered why, since she was a beautiful woman and he saw nothing wrong with admiring her beauty. Annoyed, Selena couldn't understand his indifference. Dahlin calmly explained that it was natural to appreciate beauty, and there was nothing wrong with it. Even so, Dahlin soon appeared with a handprint on his face, apologizing for his lack of sense after Selena had slapped him. They continued their conversation, and Dahlin reminded Selena that she was searching for a husband. She admitted that things hadn't gone well, so she decided to visit him in his village because traveling alone was challenging. Delighted by her arrival, Dahlin promised to help her however he could. He even suggested they live together, which left Selena flustered. After recovering from the shock, she questioned if he was serious since she was a monster. Dahlin explained that his village was home to many beast folk and demi-humans, and while the villagers might initially be wary of her because she was a lamia, her powers and kindness would eventually win them over, allowing her to live peacefully in Varen. Surprised, Selena hadn't considered the possibility of befriending humans. Dahlin then confessed that her presence would make his life more pleasant. Realizing how his words sounded, he wondered if he was unintentionally courting her. Regardless, the invitation was extended, and Selena accepted. She then revealed another reason for seeking him out. She hoped he could share some of his life energy with her, as she had never encountered such a delicious and revitalizing energy. Dahlin agreed, assuring her that once they lived together, she would have as much as she needed. To seal the deal, he transferred a little life energy to her as a demonstration, causing Selena to become excited from head to tail. The next day, Dahlin and Selena discussed their plans, and in the village, the captain and his subordinates were investigating mysterious attacks that had been happening for 3 days, where animals were found dead and strange tracks had been left behind. They suspected that the culprit behind the recent attacks might be the half-human, half-creature shadow they had glimpsed the previous night, specifically a lamia, an extremely dangerous being feared by humans. What puzzled the captain was why she left her prey in the village rather than taking it to eat immediately. The officer warned the village elders of the potential threat lurking in the territory, and everyone wondered why a lamia had appeared in this region, as it was a rare occurrence. Captain Baron also proposed forming a squad to eliminate the creature once and for all. However, one of the village leaders pointed out that they had too few people, making it too risky. They agreed that reinforcements from the capital were necessary, so a messenger needed to be sent right away. While working with Albert, Dahlin overheard this conversation. He had reflected sadly on how deep the divide between humans and monsters ran. It pained him to think that someone like Selena, who was so kind and gentle, could be hated simply for what she was. Back at the meeting, Maguru urged the villagers not to panic, acknowledging Baron's concern for their safety. However, she suggested that the lamia might be leaving the animals as offerings to the village and encouraged them to understand the situation better before taking any action. At that moment, Ari arrived with the results of a divination Maguru had recommended. The elder carefully examined the ritual object and confirmed that Ari had reached the same conclusion as she had. The appearance of the serpent was a good omen, and the villagers should wait and see what happened next. Overjoyed by the decision, Dahlin rushed off to tell Selena that the offering plan had worked, setting the stage for the next part of his plan. The following day, Captain Baron informed his soldiers that a lamia had been spotted, so a special training session would be held to ensure everyone was prepared in case of an attack. The children were captivated by the captain's commanding presence, especially his son Toro. Meanwhile, Dahlin pondered the village's defense and how it played a key role in his plan with Selena. He knew he would need help from key figures like the captain, the lieutenant, and priestess Letitia, who could perform healing miracles and antidotes. However, since Letitia was a messenger of the goddess Miral, Dallin had to ensure she didn't view Selena as a threat, as that would spell disaster for the Lamia. The previous night, Dallin had arranged for Selena to rescue him during training in the burrowing rabbit territory. He would intentionally enter the animal's den and then signal Selena for help. However, things took a different turn when a guard rushed in during training, reporting that your hairy father was approaching. The massive beast soon appeared and raged. Baron then ordered everyone to stay back, as a blow from the bear could be deadly. However, the problem was that Toro was too close to the bear and defenseless. Seeing this, Dallin acted quickly, leaping to protect the boy. At the same time, Selena suddenly appeared, throwing herself in front of Dallin to shield him from the bear's claws. She then cast a spell, commanding the bear to return to the forest, leaving everyone stunned as the beast obediently retreated. Afterward, Selena checked on Toro, asking if he was alright, but Captain Baron remained suspicious of her intentions and threatened her. Dallin defended Selena, explaining that she had saved him and Toro. Another villager, Malad, agreed, but Baron remained wary. He questioned why the Lamia had been leaving offerings in the village and why she had saved them. Selena explained that she had saved them because their families would be heartbroken if they died. She then bowed and pleaded for permission to live in the village, revealing that her father was human and had always loved her mother. Hearing this, Baron asked Priestess Letitia for her opinion. The priestess received a message from the goddess Miral, affirming that the Lamia before them was no threat and that everyone should live in harmony. Letitia then approached Selena, noting that the Lamia was keeping her eyes closed to ease the villagers' fear of curses. Gently, she asked Selena to open her eyes, assuring her that everything was fine now. However, Selena was gravely injured from her earlier efforts and fainted soon after. Once Selena recovered, she was given a house in the village. She was touched by the kindness the villagers showed her, including a plush mushroom left in her new home, an idea suggested by Captain Baron himself. Speaking of him, Baron later apologized to Selena for drawing his weapon on her, acknowledging that she had saved his son's life. Ari asked Selena to share everything she knew about her species so they could take better care of her, and Selena, in turn, wished to learn more about humans. Finally, Dallin, pretending not to know Selena, extended his hand to her in greeting. Overwhelmed, Selena tearfully accepted his gesture, and with that, Dallin officially welcomed her to Varan village. As Dallin gazes out the window, lost in thought, the rest of the group mingles with their newest member. He can't shake the feeling of being indebted to his old friend, the so-called goddess Miral, whose oracle saved Selena. Meanwhile, in town, tension rises as the newspapers report the latest missing woman. Headmistress Olivia receives a letter from her prize assistant, Christina, and her eager assistant urges her to read it. Christina's letter details her time in the village, describing the harsh climate, the constant threat to safety, and the villagers' reliance on combat training. Christina recounts sparring with Vice Captain Marita, where the villagers remarked that it had been a long time since they had seen Marita struggle in a fight. While they knew the Vice Captain hadn't gone all out, Christina agreed. Eventually, Marita gave her all in a fierce exchange, but ended up losing. The crowd cheered, thrilled by the battle. Christina helped Marita up, praising her exceptional sword skills, calling them swift and beautiful, which made Marita blush. Baron then also commended them both on a marvelous mock battle, and Marita invited Christina to join them for lunch. Christina was surprised by how warm and welcoming the villagers were. At the pub, some local girls offered her food, captivated by her beauty. Baron soon joined them, inviting Christina for a drink. However, Albert thought she should decline, knowing the captain tends to go overboard. Marita then scolded Baron, calling his request disrespectful. So Baron quickly apologized, assuring her he meant no offense, and then left with the other boys to enjoy themselves. Christina later overheard them laughing as she prepared for bed, but restlessness led her to train more. During her nighttime training, Christina bumped into Dallin and Selena. Noticing Christina seemed upset, the Lamia invited her to her home. Selena showed off her straw bed, boasting about its comfort. Dallin gently reminded Christina that humans might not find it as cozy, but the noblewoman tried it anyway, surprised by how comfortable it was. Selena spoke of how the villagers' warm nature had eased her worries about being accepted, and she pointed out that everyone in the village loved Baron's wife's milk. Christina now understood why the villagers gathered there each morning. They also discussed how the captain consistently is the best at drinking his wife's milk and Dallin's brother's impressive fishing skills. However, when the girls realized that was the only one standing, the girls dragged him into bed with them for some biological lessons. The following morning, they visited the captain's home for Christina to try her wife's famous milk. Baron insisted they join him, and a fresh cup was brought out for Christina. She drank it quickly, marveling at its taste. From the way she downed it, the captain guessed she was a skilled drinker, and she admitted she could outdrink most. Fired up, the captain challenged her, but by the end he collapsed while she remained standing. Impressed, she was later given the honor of tasting Baron's daughter's first cup of milk. The young girl was quickly overjoyed to hear that it tasted sweet and went down smoothly, even hugging Christina for her kind words. Back at the palace, Christina's letter concludes by saying she has grown closer to the villagers and the place is becoming dear to her. That evening, Olivia attends a ball where the latest gossip is about Christina's friendship with a beautiful Lamia. The headmistress is surprised that the noblewoman's exploits have become the hottest topic in town. She is joined by Karen, a mage employed by the government general who is particularly curious about the Lamia. Olivia finds it odd that Karen is so interested in a simple Lamia, but Karen explains that humans shouldn't be living with such dangerous creatures, especially with the ongoing mystery of the serial disappearances, as she doesn't want more trouble. However, Olivia doesn't believe the Lamia pose any danger, as an oracle from the goddess Marries instructed the villagers to live peacefully with her. But the mage Karen remains unconvinced, arguing that they should still prepare for the worst. To do so, she proposes that Selena be summoned to the town for an assessment. Gorda, the commissioner of the northern frontier, interrupts to support Karen's view, offering to lead an envoy to retrieve the Lamia. That night, Dolan astral projects in his dragon form to visit the other world, where he meets Marries, his old friend. She is delighted to see him, and Dolan thanks her for the oracle that saved Selena, admitting he doesn't know what would have happened without it. Marries, recognizing him despite his rebirth as a human, shares that she felt his soul among the prayers directed to her. She's happy but also puzzled, recalling how he once seemed weary of life as a dragon. Dolan explains that reincarnation changed his perspective. He now understands how people on the surface live each day as if it's their last. He remarks that while celestial beings live longer, humans' shorter lives burn with a bright intensity. Marries agrees, noting that he too shines brightly now and that she senses contentment in both his and Selena's hearts. As day breaks, Selena bursts into Dolan's room, waking him up with the news that it's a new day. Dolan asks her to knock next time, but she notices that he's in good spirits. He tells her he dreamed of an old friend who said kind words to him. Changing the subject, Selena reminds him of their promise to plant potatoes with Christina, hinting that the noblewoman might be upset if he forgot. The trio heads to the farm where Selena plants the potatoes unevenly and Christina aggressively punches the ground while planting. Amid their work, Christina rushes over, urging them to come to the village gate immediately. When they arrive, Dolan and Selena are surrounded by guards on Gorda's orders. The commissioner introduces himself and confirms that it was Dolan who brought Selena into their lands. A priestess defends Selena by pointing out that Marries' oracle proves she isn't evil. However, Gorda clarifies that while he respects the goddess's judgment, he's responsible for ensuring the safety of their lands and must address any potential threats. Dolan is relieved that they didn't send an elimination squad, but still wonders what they want. Gorda reveals that they plan to take Selena to the government general to confirm she isn't a threat. While they trust Marries' assessment, they must follow the law of the land if Selena is to live in Vaughn Village. Dolan requests to accompany Selena since he brought her into the village in the first place, and Gorda agrees, seeing this as a way to prevent any problems along the journey. As soon as they set off, Christina uses a wind spell to rush ahead to the town, seeking a meeting with Headmistress Olivia before the envoy arrives. She barges into Olivia's office, explaining what Gorda did during his visit to the village. Olivia calmly offers Christina tea and reassures her that Selena won't be eliminated, as she has Marries' blessing. The headmistress also reveals that Kieran orchestrated this, seeing Selena as a potential threat. Kieran suspects the Lamia might be involved in the recent disappearances, though Olivia doubts it given the geographical distance between the incidents. Still, Olivia warns that suspicion could fall on Selena if Kieran builds a case against her. Meanwhile, on their journey, Dolan comforts a worried Selena by holding her close, explaining that his mother used to comfort him the same way when he was anxious. He assures her that there's nothing to fear. As they travel, the carriage suddenly stops, and they're told to step out. Both Dolan and Selena exchange concerned glances, unsure of what's coming next. This then marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers.